from January 20th, 2021. If you guys want to review those.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Yes. Okay. Toby made the motion. I'll second. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, perfect.
Aye.
Okay, perfect. All right, so now we'll meet with A5. John Harris and Lizzie Kreindler are on the call here, as well as Jay Hedges. So I guess I will defer to Jay and John and Lizzie.
Aaron, can you see the screen or no?
I cannot. I'm on a call right now. I was trying to join Teams, but for some reason, when I tried to log in, it said I no longer had access to Teams to get in. So.
Well, we better get that resolved before.
Something we can work out at another time, but I'm on the call right now.
Okay. I was just asking because we may share our screen tonight, but basically what we want to do is talk through some of the deliverables on the A5 contract and kind of set up a sort of a pre-launch plan now, or a launch plan. And then we did discuss one thing that I thought was in the branding proposal, but is not, is rebranding of the website, which we've already kind of talked about, and we've gotten connected A5 with MuniWeb. So the question is, do we want to swap something out of the current list of deliverables to handle the website? So with that in mind, John or Lizzie, if you would just kind of go through the remaining deliverables, since Aaron can't see the screen, you can share it for the rest of us if you want.
Sounds good. Lizzie, do you have that? Are you in a position where you could do that?
Or you could just talk through them. Just talk through what's left on the deliverables. That's fine.
Okay. Sorry, I was just dealing with children. Give me 1 second here.
That's all right. I've got it up. Look, I'll just talk through it if you'd like to. I have it on the screen in front of me. So what we have left.
I have it now too.
Pardon me?
I have it now too. Whatever you prefer.
I'll let you guys go ahead and talk through it then. And if there's anything that you think is better or more about either an equal swap or less of a priority, maybe you could recommend that to the committee.
Okay. There, you should be able to see it.
Aaron's on camera though, so we have to read through it.
Okay.
I can email it to you, Aaron. Would that help?
Yeah, I mean, if you just email me the packet, even if I can't see it right now, I can take a look afterwards. That's fine.
Okay.
So with the presentation of the graphic identity, we provided design direction for, I think, most of these applications. If we needed, another season of street banners or an envelope, we can certainly provide that design reference. Next, we were to create a social media strategy and plan with up to 3 social media ads and 10 posts and different cover images for the Facebook cover page. Next was an email template, a 4x9 rack brochure, and that could just be, that's like a flyer or counter card or rack brochure. Write and distribute a news release, provide the brand standards, consultation on the text communication or emergency notification system, the economic development brochure, which is already in motion with Shaw Media, and then the chamber street banners, which we've been working with Jeannie on. She accepted one of the logo versions we provided, and street banner designs, and now is just looking for vendors. And
well, it looks like they launched their rebrand. It looks like they launched their rebrand today. So I didn't know that they were going to jump before us, but they already put their logo out on social media and already are pushing it. Yep.
Oh my goodness, I didn't have.
I was kind of upset about it.
Hold on, A5, did you give them final files? Did they get design files from you and everything that they needed to relaunch that?
Yeah, well, we provided logo files to them and to you, but not.
I didn't. Yeah, I did not know they were launching now.
Well, they launched today probably about 4 hours ago, and I was kind of hot about it because I thought we were going to do it together.
Yeah, I can't really say that we embargoed it with Jeannie, but I wasn't expecting her to, so I'll have to give her a call.
It's well, whatever it is, it's out there now. You can't backtrack. So
Yeah.
now it looks like we're stealing their logo.
That's all right. Don't worry about it.
Right, so of those items,
So, hey, Jay,
So
Yeah.
can I ask a quick question on the items of the deliverables? Did I hear correctly that one of them is an SMS text communication for emergency services?
It's just consultation on those services. So we, in the weekly calls with Jay, this came up that maybe Everbridge, or I know you were looking at TextMyGov, that there might be a service out there that would meet the needs of both emergency text communication and then text communication about social or events or, you know, just happenings in the village.
Okay, so there would
And
be
so
like
it's
a
just
social
a
or email
recommendation.
component to it.
Yeah, I think part of like an overall marketing and communications plan, you know, we'd have goals, audiences, objectives, and then the different tactics and platforms. And so if text were to be one of them, you know, we
Oh,
could
okay.
create some sort of
I was
either
just thinking
guidelines or
from it
direction
from
or policy.
Yeah, I was just wondering. I'm like trying to play in my head. I'm like, how the heck does branding align to an SMS message strategy? But totally understand as a communication strategy. Okay, sorry about that. Just wanted to make sure I understood correctly.
actually, no, that's on the agenda as the next item. So let's talk, if you don't mind, Mike, if we could just address that briefly here.
Absolutely.
So Lizzie had recommended 3 companies several months ago. This came up, Aaron, you actually brought this up at one of our preliminary meetings. We had talked about, actually not a board meeting, we talked about Nixle Services and why the police department doesn't subscribe to it anymore. And they said it was expensive. I think Chief said about $3,000 a year. And Nixle, as you know, well, you probably know, I hope, we just do it for absolute emergencies. If there's a real emergency, maybe 3 or 4 times a year we use it. We used it for the missing person a couple months ago, but we don't subscribe anymore. So they allow us to use Nixle only for emergencies. I've been in touch with Nixle again to talk about their costs and what they provide, but I've also been in touch with several companies that offer texting that's more marketing related. So it's intended to communicate whatever you want to communicate with your residents. Anything from just information, you know, we can send a blast out for informational purposes, or things that are what's happening in town. There's also the reverse where people can actually send inquiries in. And I had a very interesting conversation with a company called TextMyGov. Josh and I were on that call late last week. And they can actually text into the village keywords. And a keyword would take them to a link on our website. So if I text in, I want to fill out a building permit, it would read the word building permit and it would give them a link to our website for the building permits. So it's actually, there's several different tools like that. Some of them actually use geofencing where they, like Nixle does, where they identify all the cell phones within our village limits, and then they allow those people to subscribe. TextMyGov actually waits for people to sign up. So you have to send them in their water bill on your website, various ways you get them to sign up. So there are several services out there. And I would tell you just from the conversations I've had and from what Lizzie has shared with me, that they're all going to be around $3,000 or $4,000 a year. So there are a lot of marketing tools. In my opinion, they're probably better than Nixle because I'm on the Nixle service in Huntley and I get one a week, and mostly weather related and traffic related. I don't really see Nixle as a marketing tool. But these other programs are, and Lizzie had quite a bit of experience with this, so we included that in our deliverables based on the conversation we had earlier in the year, Aaron. That's how it got in here. So having said that,
I was just trying to build the connection between how it went from branding to the marketing comm side, but that makes sense. All right.
Okay. So and
so what came out of the original proposal that was replaced by this? Because I know when we went into this and we did the original costing, there was like a set or a bill of materials that we talked about. Did anything of that bill come out to be replaced with this?
No, this was in the original PA.
So
There might have been versions before that, but the signed PA has consultation of tech systems.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I just sent you the actual signed agreement, Aaron. If you're anywhere near your email, you'll see that there, along with the agenda.
And Jay, if I could make the website question, i.e., should we swap something out simple? Since we're already doing brand standards, that's all we were really going to do to the website anyway, right? Nobody was going to redesign the website, move this button here, move that button there. So it really is about font and color and things of that sort. So let's not worry about taking something out or adding something back in. We'll just take care of that.
Because
And I appreciate that. I think Trustee Reed knows where I stand on this. I think the website part absolutely is important from branding and fonts and colors and all of that. And we should also be having, outside of this meeting, a bigger discussion of the re-platforming and redesign of our entire web. But that's a separate discussion. I think you play a part of that discussion. But I think that's a larger discussion we have as a board.
Yeah, and so for the sake of this conversation, I mean, and Jay, you and I have talked about this, I think John and Lizzie as well, in our the call that I was on a few weeks ago on a Friday morning. I think with the brand standards document, I think we can bring what we have currently into the brand standard, which would buy us some time until we can have a larger conversation that Mr. Kelly's talking about. And we'd be able to handle a lot of that on our own and engage our current web consultant to do the work that we can't, i.e. with the headers and that kind of stuff and changing the colors and that kind of thing. But a lot of that's a manual process with adapt, unless we're going to launch a brand new website, which we're not in a position to do at the current time. We're going to have to do a lot of manual work on our own. And I'm not volunteering, Josh, but again, I think that based on the conversation we had with Jay, that it's something that Josh and I would be able to work through together and adjust page by page, once they do the major change of the platform or the template and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I think we plan to spend a few $100s if we have to, hopefully not much more than that with MuniWeb for a few things they may have to do. So John, with that offer, I appreciate that. And then really the purpose of this call then is to just kind of talk through the deliverables here and if there's any guidance from the committee before our staff, we kind of dig in here. That's really all. So if I know, Toby, you can probably see the screen, and Mike, is there anything in here? Design direction for 3 brand applications, gateway and wayfinding signage. That came up in a recent conversation with the BDC. They were asking about when would our wayfinding signs in the streetscape project start to merge with the new brand. And I told, actually at this coming Thursday, staff will be recommending an engineering firm for streetscape. I think I mentioned this to the BDC. I haven't talked to this committee since Friday. On Friday, we received we received only 1 proposal, which was from EEI. We were expecting as many as 4, but the other 3 companies at the last minute did not quote, primarily because they don't have staff time in the spring to do the work. Apparently, municipal engineering is really busy. But I'll save that discussion for Thursday, but we will start to hone in on a timetable. I do want to say, without just leaving it hang there, that EEI put in a lot of effort on this and put together a really nice proposal, which you'll see on Thursday. Of course, they had a lot of background and had a real advantage on this project anyway, having done the work before. So with that said, we will be able to start to consolidate working with PRI, who will be a subcontractor to EEI, assuming the board approves that. So that's the first thing on here. We don't really, I mean, it includes signage, street banners, 2 seasons, it says here. So that's what you've been working with Jeannie on, right? I really thought she was working on her banners more than she was on her launch. Lizzie, you've already worked with her a little bit on the banners, right?
Yeah, so she has like a system of banners, the design reference for a system of banners. They're different size street banners, so she needs a vendor, and we've worked with Bannerville before and other street banner vendors, which we've mentioned. So once she gets a contract and specs, we can provide the InDesign template, and then it's just a matter of her editing the business names at the bottom.
Okay. So that one is underway and moving along. This includes business cards, letterhead, envelope, and that sort of thing. By the way, we don't need a printed letterhead. We just need electronic letterhead when we get to that. I think this may be the next one is where I'd really like to have some input from the committee, is that create social media plan and up to 3 social media ads and 10 posts promoting tourism and economic development. This is really what the committee exists for, and is to kind of give us some guidance about social media, about a social media plan. Since Mike does most of the posts, Aaron, you help out a lot too, and Toby, you've been involved. So how do you feel about our current social media plan, and how do we need to upgrade it or change it?
I can speak to the fact that we try to work on a plan as something exists. We don't really have a definition of what our social media plan is. It really has kind of been one of these things where we come up with a few ideas based on current situations and we run with it. The overall theme is try to inform the public of what's going on within the village, but we really don't have it like a set schedule of posts or set content, or I've seen some pretty involved social media plans in my other responsibilities in life, but we don't really have that. It's kind of throwing stuff at a wall and make it stick. Now, we have a pretty good following and we've had a pretty good response based on the fact that we carry a common theme in all that we try to do. But at the same time, I think the village could really benefit from having an organized plan. And Trustee Kelly, I know that you do this for a living. Am I off base in what I'm saying?
No, I think you're on. We haven't sat down to come up with an actual social media plan as far as communication strategy goes. I think it's been more reactive. So weather statements, or there's an update, we've used it to push communication. We haven't really used it as an engagement tool, and that's a transition we need to look at.
Yeah, so that's what A5 is. That's part of the scope of this agreement is to help us through that. So I guess the question is what role would the committee like to play? Is this a good night for us to dig into that? How would you like to work through that?
John, have you looked at our website?
Social media?
Yes.
Yes, Lizzie and I have spent a little time on the village social media, and someone let us in on the local Hampshire residents group also.
How does it look from a standpoint of what you do for a living versus Barney and Opie?
I'll play the part of Barney or Opie. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys captured it, nicely. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's mostly, communicating, what is happening that's from an immediate nature, versus, and that's not uncommon. So there's nothing wrong with it at all. And to what Mike and Aaron said, we'd be happy to work on a plan and make sure, who are the audiences? What are the goals? What is it that we want to communicate? As Mike said, the regular posts, right? So do we do something on Monday or on Wednesday? And if so, what is it? And then working on policies is also what do we post, on what do we comment, and what do we not comment? How do we monitor those types of things?
So one of the things too that would be helpful is not just the strategy or the policy. I think all of that's super important, but also what are the KPIs or the metrics we should work towards? Our baseline, where we are before we start the strategy, And then what are those metrics that we should look at, whether it's engagement, whether it's followers or reach, those typical social media metrics, a baseline of where we are, the suggested KPI metrics of what success would look like, so that we can start to measure, are we getting better? Are we growing? Are we doing things in the right direction? Or do we need to like pause and rethink about things? So that's one of them that I would ask that you guys provide as well.
Yeah, and forgive me, I use goals and key performance indicators. I tend to use them interchangeably, but absolutely, right? You're at sort of 3,900 followers right now. So to your point, and this goes with budget too, is where do we want to be? And what we could do is benchmark this against similarly sized communities. And by the way, we're just talking Facebook now, right? We're not talking about other forms of social media. But where are you, like you said, on a certain date, and where do you want to be by a certain date, and why?
But a goal wouldn't necessarily be to just get more followers. In our case, wouldn't we want to be more strategic than that?
Yeah, I think there's overarching goals, and then there's, to Aaron, the key performance indicators. So, the number of followers, the reach,
In my mind, a goal would be to better inform the residents of what to expect from snow plowing, for example. That would be a goal, or to improve the image of the village government among its residents.
Yeah, right.
To improve the image of the village government when it comes to businesses considering locating here. Those are the kinds of goals bigger goals, and then we'd have to come up with strategic objectives to reach those goals, and then KPIs that would measure our progress. Does that work for you, Aaron?
Yeah, I just, the hard part for me with soft goals are, how do you measure success? Like, how do we say we increased brand awareness, or how do we say we achieved that goal if it's not something that's measurable, right?
Oh, I agree.
I think it's the right direction. It's just, we need to be able then to tie, here's the measurement that we use to define success in that area.
Let me just give you an example. If we were to say to improve the image of village government among our residents, then we would take a baseline survey. By the way, the BDC, as you know, has been doing a lot of surveys. And I don't know if PR committee have you done surveys, Mike?
No, I don't think we've ever done a survey. They've kind of done it on their own.
Yeah, Dave Pizzolatto's done quite a few surveys, mostly to do, they're doing this exercise right now about, well, I won't digress to that, but so the point is, I think if that's a goal, then we want to have a baseline, what's the image of the village now as perceived by the residents, in terms of service delivery, in terms of a place to live, in terms of a place to open a business, and then have a baseline and set a goal to improve that baseline to X. Does that work with the kind of goals and KPIs that you work with, Aaron?
Yeah, I think that's the right path.
Okay, so I would at least ask this committee, and it doesn't have to be tonight, but I would at least ask this committee to help us identify some of those goals that we'd like to achieve. And the areas that we've talked about so far, just audience, residents, tourism audience, and economic development audience. Are there any other that we should include in that besides those three?
I don't even know where this would fit in, so I apologize, but I can tell you based on some of the trends, we have to put information out there that they want to know. Okay, so as far as like you said, snowplow operations and that kind of thing,
and emergency phone numbers after hours.
Yeah, that like we've always had a problem with, like, okay, it's an example of Waste Management's truck breaks down. They call the village hall and they say, hey, we're not picking up this route. The village hall doesn't call anybody that has to do anything with posting, and then we get angry residents. So I mean, it's trying to like be a little bit more proactive when it comes to everyday responsibilities of the village. I mean, and it's not for lack of trying, it's just kind of the way things work out. Dave's really good about saying, hey, we got a water main break, or hey, we've got, snow removal stuff, and we try to head off some of the complaints. But I don't even, what kind of terminology would it be to just kind of head off some of the complaints that we get on a regular basis when, like, we have the information, but we don't get it out there? Does that make sense?
Well, to put that in some context, yes. I mean, that's one of our audiences is residents, as I just defined. Residents are an audience. In this case, we're talking about communicating information, facts. So, I mean, the good news about what happened yesterday, we're all talking about a specific incident. Hello there, Aaron. We can see you now. But you are muted, Aaron. Okay. Okay, thanks. So we had an incident yesterday where we had a sewer blackout and people had sewage in their basements. Aaron happened to see it first on Facebook after the people posting said, "Where's Mike Reed? Where's Toby Koth?" And then Aaron jumped in. And I'm observing because until yesterday I didn't have a Facebook account for Village Manager, but I created one because of that post. So anyway, the good news is, Aaron, I think you guys are aware of this. The Sean that posted on there, who said, you know, what's happening, that was our Public Works employee, Sean. So we were already on top of it. We were already on the way when they inquired, but they didn't know that. So yeah, if we want a policy that says every time or frequently, in most cases when there's an emergency, this affected one block of the village, maybe about a half a block, you know, is that something that we would post ahead of time? Or we just want somebody monitoring to be able to respond to inquiries like that?
I think we should post numbers for residents to call. And even if there's nobody at the other end because they're busy doing something, just the fact that the resident has a little peace of mind there is an actual number to call or a procedure or a process.
Yeah, and that's what we all ended up doing. I think I was the one that finally it took me about a half an hour to create my own Facebook account for Village Manager because I didn't want to use the other one with all my other 500 friends that would jump into all kinds of conversations. So I created another one and I did post the phone number, Toby. So I think eventually it got there, but yeah, there's no automated way you can really respond to a Facebook post, is there?
No.
So I was going to say there are tools we can use, and I don't know if the Test My Gov has the integration, but there are ways that you can allow for Facebook Messenger to be able to connect for instant chats. Like if we don't have instant chat on our website, but we want to utilize Facebook Messenger or we want to utilize something, WhatsApp, whatever the tool is, there are ways to take Facebook conversation and say, if you have like on our Facebook page, you could create a button that says message the village and have it bring up Facebook Messenger, and then it pings a box or a distribution list. So we can look at things like that, but that would be part of, John, what I would say is like, what's the strategy behind that, right? We don't want to just have everybody blast in the village.
Well, in my mind, one of the goals is that our village residents would know the number to call in a case of a public works emergency, a non-emergency emergency. And the fact is, I mean, some people said, call Village Hall, call the police department. They were kind of all guessing until we gave them the right answer. But it was only because we happened to be there. Aaron posted it and then texted me, we need a better way of observing. And keep in mind, this was not our Facebook page. This was the community Facebook page.
Right.
We do happen to know the administrator of that page, so that's helpful.
Is there a way on the community page to put a little box somewhere of village services with numbers and list them, list the fire department, police department, after hours emergency numbers, that sort of thing?
Not permanently. You could pin it as an announcement, but then it would eventually get buried. But maybe that's something that we do on our website, or we come up with something, that we can put out there. Again, part of the strategy, right? Like we have a community, like a page on our website or something that they can go to hampshireil.org, /emergency or something. And we have that information and we'll really start pumping it or something, or we do something that like when they go to, like maybe there's a button on the homepage of our website that's, you know what I mean? Like we just have to have some kind of tool or something, because I wasn't specifically speaking about yesterday's incident, but that kind of thing happens all the time, Jay. Yeah. I mean, it's just people don't, no matter how many times we tell them, this is where you go for this, or this is where you go for this, automatically people, they just don't know.
Well, you have to also remember the demographics of Hampshire.
Sure. Oh,
You've got a lot of elderly or older people that maybe have a computer or maybe have a cell phone, but they're not computer savvy.
Right.
Yeah, I think too, Jay, we could do that. I know one of the original purposes of that community network is that it was separate from the village, right? That the village didn't have a say-so in it. It wasn't moderated by the village or controlled by the village. It was a separate conversation. So I think taking Mike out of that, so there's no conflict of interest, but talking to the other administrators to say, hey, could you pin something to the top that's like in the about section, residents of Hampshire, if you need to report something, here's information, just to add it to their about area could
Well,
be
I mean,
helpful, but we would
that's
want
something
to have their administrators do it.
we could certainly do that. There's not a conflict of interest putting that information out there, regardless of whether I'm an administrator or not. I mean, but the practice,
No, I mean of updating the about section.
no, I get that. There's no conflict of interest in doing that, but and so that's certainly something we can do. But the fact of the matter is that it should direct somewhere back to the village. So maybe we put a page on the village website with all that information, and then
Well-
it directs back there.
Yeah, what if we also were to have a regular post on the community website? Just once a week, once a month, whatever is tolerable without being overkill, that we post once a month, particularly during certain seasons, during snow plowing seasons. And in the spring, there'll be questions about what to do with flooding.
Yeah.
So we could have regular, and they could even we could repost the same thing. I think that strategy is where we're looking for some guidance. Would you like us to, once again, the goal here, I think, is, first of all, I'm starting with an audience. I think we should always have a target audience. And then the goal is to better inform them of village services. So would that, and maybe I know we have an expert that is on the committee, but we also have people we're paying to be here. So how would you guys, Lizzie and John, how would you suggest that we use social media to better inform our residents of general services and emergency services, that sort of thing? Is that a reasonable
It is, and I think what everybody said here, having some sort of structure by making sure that we know what your services are, so what you offer, when you offer it, why you offer it, where you're different or better than other communities, and then making sure that we're spotlighting that, and then we would marry up that overall goal with the with the regular schedule, the copy or words, and also the images. So for example, if we're going to talk village services, one of the things we could do with the new brand is show employees, or maybe we do it in a graphic manner. For Northbrook, Village in Northbrook, we gave them a series of icons that they use for different updates. If it's a travel advisory, if it's a weather advisory, et cetera. So they're not, somebody's not always trying to find a bolt of lightning clip art, for example. So it's branded, right? But we've also, done things like given for people shots, given them visual reference. So if you're going to take a photo of your public works director or your police chief or somebody, then what it is that you're trying to show, so that everything you're doing is really about building that brand, building awareness, building engagement, right? The post that's on your Facebook page from the business, it was about a month ago, I'm blanking on it, but it was the two people in the business. It's one of the local shops.
The Vintage Hammer.
Thank you. Got a great photo, got a lot of engagement, right?
happens to be one of our trustees. I don't think you even knew that, John.
Yeah, I think that's the second time you've told me that now, Jay. So I think I knew it and I forgot. So apologies.
So I guess the question is, maybe you'd like for us, unless you want to brainstorm here, we could come up with Josh and I with some help from Lizzie, and John can pull it out of us. What are the things that we should inform people about? For example, when we start trimming trees, which we do all summer, there's always questions. There's always compliments and complaints about tree trimming.
You threw that compliments in there, but it's really just complaints.
Why are you cutting down my trees?
No, there's compliments.
I'll be honest with you, Dave goes out there all the time and people say, thank you so much.
It's easy to throw darts. A lot easier to throw darts than compliments.
No, I know, I understand.
But Jay, you have it right. Snow plowing, spring rains, cleaning gutters, your sewer grates out in front of your house. Yeah, fire, you've got it.
All leaf pickup, all those things. So I think we can come up with a list of ideas and circulate that. Maybe you guys could add to it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything about, I would say just basic services. I'm talking audiences now, so I'm talking about village residents. Would be basic village services. Josh, you taking some notes for me? Basic village services, and then special events, and then some kind of emergencies, right? Sewer, roads are shut down.
Roads,
Yeah,
weather.
so one of the
think
things
too,
we have
if
to do is identify who's going to make these posts. It could be any time, day or night. And I'm kind of the one person who's on duty 24/7. That's part of my job title. And to the extent that you guys as elected officials want to, that's true also. But that's why I joined yesterday. I created a page just for myself because I felt bad for you guys having to make posts about village services. I felt like somebody, um, you know, more directly responsible for delivering those services.
Somebody that knew what he was talking about. He's saying it without saying it.
Yes. He's
No,
like,
it's
please
not
don't
that so
talk
much at
on,
all.
on
It's
the
just that you
village's
guys have to
behalf.
call me. You're twice removed unless you make phone calls directly to the department heads.
Yeah.
And,
No, so one of the things, John, I think, Jay, I agree with all of those motions we need to do, but there's also this aspect of engagement type communications that we should have that is more informative, like meet the department heads, like who's Dave Starrett, who's the, who's Jay, some of those type of just informal posts, or maybe a history of Hampshire type post, right? Stuff that isn't just I'm pushing out so that all you ever hear from me is an announcement or something happening, but that gets people to come back. Because one of the things, and John and Lizzie, I'd love your points of view on this, the power behind the type of message versus the regularity of posts and the schedule of messages and the variance of the two.
We could also post a roster of people on our village page.
before we go too far off that, Aaron, I just like to respond to the whole personal thing. I personally would prefer not to be the focus of a feature on Facebook, on the community page in particular. You guys have both seen what happened on there. We've all taken our shots, but I took it. Nobody called for any of your firings, I don't think. And that was
Not yet.
That was another situation that we weren't control of, but that's why I didn't really want to be involved at all on the community page, but I finally did see a need over the weekend. But my point is that I think as we get larger, especially, some of us don't really want to be identified by face and name. Maybe that's inappropriate, or maybe you think it is appropriate that we should be. I don't necessarily know that, Dave lives in town. I live really close to town. Brian lives in town. Do Brian and, Brian's pictures all over the village already.
Yeah, and I'm okay. It doesn't have to be people. My point was more of a humanistic post, not just we're trimming trees, right? So maybe it's a history of Hampshire series, or it's it doesn't have to be about the people that work there, Jay. I was just using that as an example. It was to think outside of just there's a specific purpose for this post, and more of a how do we have regular communications that allow us to keep some type of scheduled system, right?
Mm-hmm. And the post could also be a photo of a person or people, and not necessarily say, Officer, Reed and Officer Kelly, helping the cat out of the tree. It could be just the idea that we're showing police, we're showing fire, we're showing public, we're putting a human face on it, and explain.
I'm thinking of even going back to some more of the basics of, hey, it's spring. What's your favorite vegetable to grow in your home garden? Or what are you looking forward to most when the snow leaves the ground, right? Stuff like that isn't just about the things we do for the community, but is more of just if all we ever do is try to promote ourselves or do announcements when things are going wrong or when we're doing work, then that's all people will ever expect of us, and they won't see us as an organization that's trying to connect to them on a human level, right? And so that's kind of what I was leaning towards, right? How do we do some of that? And I don't know, maybe villages don't. And John and Lizzie, you come back and you say, people don't do that, and there's specific reasons, and stay the hell out of that, right?
No, it's happening more and more. And to an earlier point, it becomes a matter of A, what you want to accomplish, and B, how you want to measure, to your point, because those types of posts are going to get people to follow you. They're going to get people to engage versus, so such and such road is closed, right? Those are things you need to inform people about, but it's that type of content that you guys are talking about that really will engage people. And then when we talk about KPIs, we'll be able to hit those marks. But it's going to be about retaining residents and bringing in new residents and retaining businesses. And and also attracting new businesses and visitors, et cetera. So we're increasingly, it used to be that municipalities were afraid of saying anything because, you might offend someone. And if you talked about one, you'd need to talk about the other. And those fears are melting away with today's age of social media and everybody sharing everything else. And then as long as we have, some type of policy and, decency standards, 4-letter words are just not even going to make it live, then with proper monitoring, everything can work. But it really is just a great way to engage people. So we're doing more and more around that injects more of the brand and the personality of the community. So I like you said, I like here's the planting season, here's the harvesting season, let's emphasize all of the things that make Hampshire a great place to live or open and run a business.
And Jay, I know you said you were going to go through it again because we were a little verbose in our first edition of an employee handbook, but it might be worth sharing. I thought we put in a social media policy for the employee handbook that you have, and so that might be worth sharing. Or if it gets rewritten as part of the trimming down of 197 pages or whatever our employee handbook was, we did do a start to that type of policy, John.
Yeah, that's a good point. In fact, that is exactly what was on my mind, because at first I was really thrilled to see that Sean had responded. I knew who he was. Most people probably don't. But then I was kind of concerned that he responded without any guidelines. What he did say was call Village Hall. There's a number there. And then I just reiterated by providing the number and saying there are emergency choices there. So yeah, I think we should share that. And then when I was talking to Mark, who happens to be Sean's boss, Mark said, "Oh, I don't know. I'm not on social media." So we don't need a policy for Mark, I guess. So one question I have is, do we continue to depend on the community site, or do we try and, our 3,900 users, how many members are there on the community site?
Well, and so that's always been the argument, right? Like, so there's 10, let's just call it what it is. There's 10,000 people that live at the village. There should be 10,000 followers of our own page, and then the community network could be on its own. However, how do we get the people from the community network to follow our page? That's always been the argument, is so,
let's also remember the community network has a ton of people on it that do not live in the village.
Okay, but I can guarantee you, as if you look at the demographics, okay, there are a lot more people that say they live in Hampshire that are a part of the community network that don't follow our page, and our village municipal page. And so that's always been the thing, right? So how we started.
We want to drive traffic there. Would that be better?
Yeah, so I've always said, like, even when and I'll pick on Trustee Kujecki, and it's not anything I haven't said to him before, and he'll it's not picking on him, but like it's hard for people to grasp what the community page is, right? So like what I've always tried to do, especially with our like Hampshire's Very Own or whatever, or any type of content, we always post on our website and then share it into the network to try to get that traffic to come back. So, or like if we post anything for the village, it's not like I'm going to go on there and make a post that says, "Hey guys, the snowplows are going to be late tonight because one of the trucks broke down." If we were to post something on our village page, and then the village, which is also a member, wanted to share the content into the network, that's one thing. But even still, there are people that comment on a post that the village shares into the community network that don't follow our page. And even though we put right in there that says, "Hey, like and follow the Village of Hampshire on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, whatever," they still don't come back and follow that page, because
but there's a reason why.
It's repetition over and over again to get them to do that.
If you look at the content shared on the community page versus the content shared on the village page, the content on the village page is informational. It's, we're trimming trees, here's an update, here's a status, this is an alert, whatever it may be. The community page is a completely different vibe, tone, communication, and people are contributing to it. It's not the community page putting out information. So that's why they are two totally different purposes, two different reasons that they exist. And whether we like it or not, you will never have the engagement in the village page that you have on the community page. It's just not the same it's not the same purpose. So I would hesitate or ask that we hesitate from comparing ourselves.
Well, no, well, I don't necessarily know that it's a comparison. As my thought was, is how do you get people that live here that have a stake in the community to follow your pages for, because a lot of times it's the people that live here that are part of the network that may have liked a page or commented on something, may have commented on something or whatever. Or as an example, with that parade that we threw, right? That was like 22,000 people saw all the posts for the parade, right? But not 22,000 people, not even close did our likes or follows go up, even though we did the parade or there was all these comments or all the buzz about the parade. Nobody came back to click like or follow. Not nobody, but it was a very low number. How do you get those people that are interested in your events or even participated in your events, that take the network out of it? How do you get them to come back and follow your page?
John, you want to take a shot at that?
How do you get them to come back and follow your page?
Yeah, I mean, we've tried. I mean, you can go through your posts, and I've done this where you can actually invite them to anybody that likes or whatever. And so I've made a habit of going back through when we have a post that does really well. I'll go back and invite them, and sometimes, maybe you get 10 or 15 out of maybe 60 or 70 people that liked your post, But even still, how do you?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that's where we've always struggled because like we got to about 3,500. Like maybe a year and a half ago, and we started at 0, right? So, we started it in 2013. I think we started Facebook for the village. So, I mean, you figure that that's a good thing, but then you look at something that happened somewhere, right? And then you look at what is it, Frank the Christmas Gargoyle on Facebook or whatever, and he's got like tens of thousands of followers or whatever, and his page was just started. And then we've got things that actually happen. And it's like you really want to grab people by the throat, lack of better terminology, and say, come on, just if you'd like our page, you'd find out the information you needed to know.
yeah. Well, I think it goes back to something that you guys were just talking about. I think if I heard it right, Aaron said it. If you've got a Facebook group that is, there's an administrator, and yes, it's moderated, but it's essentially an opportunity for everybody to sort of jump in, weigh in, and talk and chat and comment and throw stuff at each other. That's going to be that's a lot more interesting, a lot more engaging than, say, the municipal page, or, if it were a library, the library page. So I think that's where it goes to, once you demonstrate that there is content that is not only necessary, i.e. roads closed, school, whatever, winter weather advisory, but there's actual content that is interesting, promoting a person, promoting a business, promoting, something happening in the community. That's when you can start to get more traction. But it is not, I think that's it in a nutshell. But by doing that second thing here, we can, we could start to then, you're going to invite people, Mike. And when you say, hey, 16 out of 60, it's actually not bad. The fact that you're doing it is huge. And two, about 25% are responding to that is that for the municipal page?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not bad. Actually.
And I do it for the police department as well.
Yeah.
And it's all about trying to get connected. Like it's the same problem that we've always had. That's what I didn't like about Nixle. That's what I'm not a big fan of with I guess Text My Gov. If you have to rely on somebody to opt in, now I realize that there's opt-in rules. Okay, I understand that. If you're relying on somebody to willingly opt in or willingly click like, you're not going to get that attachment. And so, I mean, it is what it is, right? Like you have to like and subscribe, you have to opt in, and we as a municipality just can't say, hey, let's do this, but then the other side of it is we've talked about outside of you guys, but we've talked about upgrading our business system, right? Or we have online bill pay and stuff. So we already have information. So like, as an example, like when we did our parade and we had we created an online sign up so that we knew who was coming for what. One of the questions we asked is, would you mind if we retained your email address so we could add it to our email list? Right. Okay. So that was one way. And they said, yeah, 90% of them, 95% of them said, yeah, that was fine. But we grew, because we had that parade, we grew our email list, and that kind of thing. So like, I don't know like why we can't when somebody comes into the village, say, here's your cell phone number, when you sign up for a water bill, give me your cell phone number, right? You're going to give it to me anyway. And then here's your email address. Can we at least attach with you using these two metrics that you're already giving us for the account information?
Right.
Or for that matter, what are the laws to use the information we already have? Because maybe we're not going to get them on social media, but maybe as we're looking at these platforms for notifications, if we've already got every resident's cell phone number, why can't we utilize the ones that we have? Why do we have to have them opt in again?
Mm-hmm.
I think rather than us starting from scratch, John and Lizzie, if you can go back and evaluate municipalities you've worked with or any type of governmental agency that does it well, that has good engagement. Again, we shouldn't judge ourselves, Trustee Reed, by the percentage of people that like our page to the population in the community. We should look at things like engagement and reach and, are people sharing what we give out there? That tells us that the information we do provide is useful to those that are a part of the community, right? How many people do we reach? Like if we look at some of our posts from February, the one about COVID and the one about trash had over 1,500 people reached and like 700 engaged. Engagement means they either liked or shared or somebody saw something, right? Those, while they seem minuscule, those are pretty decent metrics when compared to our overall following. You're at like a 50%. So, I think we have to temper our expectations based on the number in the village versus who likes it. But what I would like to know is, rather than us trying to go around in circles of where we should be and what we shouldn't be, who are those municipalities that are doing it well? Maybe, and not a like for like, even if they have a dedicated social media person, what does their strategy look like? Are they doing Facebook stories? Do they do Facebook and Instagram together? What type of information are they posting on Facebook? Those people you've worked with, because maybe the conversation is, here are suggestions we need to do. And Jay, we need to work together to figure out, do we bring on an intern from NIU or ECC or somewhere that can help with social media execution and bring in somebody that can dedicate the full time, because to do a best in class or a good in class, we need to have that kind of resource, right? And so that's what I would look to A5 for, is to come back with, I go back to Charbonneau because that was a logo design that we're like, that was really a cool way. They did it right. They kind of brought everybody in their community together. That was a good example. We kind of need that for a social. Here's somebody that does it right. Go to their page and check it out. See what they're posting. See what they're doing. And it's going to require X amount of time. You guys may want to look at an intern or whatever that may be, right?
Aaron, question for you during this.
Yeah.
John, when you set these up for different municipalities, do